Hello and welcome back. This is episode 16 of my Chicago White Sox rebuild series. Yeah, and if you haven't watched the previous episode, definitely go check that out because I'm about to spoil some stuff. I mean, I guess you can see um, that we are in the off season, just from the title of this video. So that does already spoil a little bit of what happened, but it doesn't quite fully capture the full series of events that happened there. So I'm just kind of stalling for time in case you want to go check that out. Um, but yeah, that's enough stalling, I think. Uh, the ALCS, we ended up losing in 7 games to Toronto. In real life, as a neutral fan, that would have been an all time classic. Went 12 innings, Toronto ended up winning off a 3-run homer by Alejandro Kirk in the top of the 12th. Um, and one of those things where it's like endless debate between you know there was that Super Bowl between the Seahawks and Patriots where people were debating, oh, should they have run the ball on the 2 yard line when they threw an interception. It was that kind of setup here where we had first base open. We could have intentionally walked Alejandro Kirk to face RJ Shrek with the bases loaded and 2 outs, and instead Kirk hits the game winning home run. So um, yeah, it was pretty devastating. Like, it's as a White Sox fan, you would hate to lose that way. But we carry on. I mean, that's part of baseball, I guess, is the highs and the lows, right? So, you know, we got to keep moving forward, and that's what the off season is all about. So, I took a few real life days off, just because of real life things, and also just to like kind of get through a little bit of the off season, just a little bit at a time. So, um, yeah, we have made some moves. I think they're moves that make sense. Um, One thing is normally I do like the very beginning of the off season and then kind of sim forward a little bit. I've ended up simming a little ways into the off season, mainly because we didn't have a scouting director. Our old scouting director retired. We hired on Andy DeVries, who looks pretty good. I mean, he's got outstanding or legendary in every category, so we will definitely take that. And yeah, let's just go through some of the moves that I've made with my handy checklist here. So, international free agency um, is another one this year where I don't fully like believe in a lot of the top prospects. Like, um, yeah, Jose Reyes, I guess, looks interesting. Um, I don't know if one of these 4-star guy or 5-star guys ends up being a you know, high work ethic, high intelligence guy, maybe, but I like to see someone who has like a little bit more developed stats than what they're kind of demonstrating here. Um, so I might end up trying to go with, um, a mix of players again. Try to go for maybe someone like Tony Castillo and then several lower tier prospects like your Vinny Gutierrez's or your Emilio Vargas's that'll sign for a little less money and try to get several guys instead of one big name guy, which is usually what it takes when you're going after those top targets, like trying to like get them with basically your full budget most of the time. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. I don't have one guy like set in mind yet, that I really want to go after. but it'll probably be a mix of guys if I had to guess right now. Dev Lab. So we'll get into this. Yeah, Liam Peterson and Max Bayless both in the Dev Lab. They're both young pitchers. It makes sense. Bayless turned 25, but he just turned 25, so I'm fully comfortable putting him in there. Eric Becker is in there, one of our top prospects. He's on the cusp, kind of, of being big league ready. I want to see him maybe take that next step. He's age 24, so he's kind of got to, I don't want to say put up or shut up on this year, but kind of. I mean, we've got like a pretty crowded infield at the moment, and he kind of needs to demonstrate that he is ready to be that guy for us. Obviously he's got 4-star potential, and we want to see him realize that potential, but he just needs to take that next step. So, generate bat speed. Power is definitely something that he needs. Same with Jay Bastian, who has gone down to a 3-star overall, or 3-star potential, but still looking pretty solid overall at age 22. Played a few games at AA. Still continuing to develop. Steele Hall is a new name that we're having to learn a new position. And same with Celestin. I'll go over that in just a second. Yeah, let's just say we've had a little bit of roster movement here. Aiden Smith is in with the 2-strike approach. He, under our old scout, had 35 avoid Ks, but avoid Ks is definitely his weakest stat still, even with our new scout. So we want to improve that. He could end up being our starting right fielder this year. We'll see. Adele Amador, I want to improve his infield defense. He is 26, but I want to make him maybe our everyday shortstop. I mean, he ended up playing there most of the time in the regular season, but his fielding at shortstop could be better. I'd like it to be better. So, yeah, he's improving infield defense. La Antigua, I would ideally like to make an everyday outfielder. He's also improving 2-strike approach, trying to get that avoid Ks up even more, as he still has a little bit of improvement left to do in that area. And then finally, Adrian Herrera, who is age 25 but still has potential to fulfill, mainly in movement, where, yeah, I'd like to see those numbers go up. So, currently we're at 3 of 10, either excelling or on track, but still early. Still plenty of time for those to change one way or another. Waiving people, Edgar Caro did get waived and taken from us by the Guardians. Rudis Diaz, we'll have to see if he makes it through waivers or not. He's kind of a fringe pitcher at the moment. Yeah, not too many other big names. Waiver claims, I don't really think we made too many big waiver claims. There might be a few guys like Wellington Aracena, looks kind of interesting. There's a few names in there like that I can kind of go through, because, oh yeah, personnel. Let's do personnel real quick, because I did hire a new scouting director who I showed off, and then we hired new hitting coaches too and promoted some guys. But most of our guys are signed through 2031. That'll be a year where it'll be kind of make or break for a lot of guys here. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But most of the time, like, personnel, let me know if you want me to get more detailed into personnel. For the most part, I've just been going for conventional wisdom, I think, which is development primary, how they handle development in the minor leagues, and then mechanics and aging as secondary. And that's for my manager. I also like managers to be good at just like general everything, if possible. But those three ratings are definitely most important. And then same ratings for pitching coach and hitting coach, with the addition of, teaching pitching for your pitching coach, teaching hitting for your hitting coach. Um, and then at the big league level, kind of the same general things: bench coach instead of your manager, pitching coach, hitting coach. And then first base and third base coach, I look for a good mix of skills, ideally with good developing mechanics and aging still. And then you want your third base coach to be good at in-game running, I think. I think that controls like a little bit of like whether they decide to send or hold guys, which makes sense. I mean, that's how it is handled in real life, right? You hear about some bad sends or good sends that happen. So yeah. Anyway, that's a very very brief overview of my kind of personnel strategy. And assistant GM doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want with them. I usually try to pick a guy who fits my staff chemistry well, and then is fairly cheap. Because if you're playing GM and manager, literally all they're doing is offering a second opinion on trades, and that's basically it. So pick whoever you want for that. Maybe make a former player into a manager and hire one of them. I don't know. That's always fun to do. I had a sim once where I had a AAA guy that stuck around for years and years, and was like a good like leader veteran type that was just really good to have around, and stuck around into his 30s and like my AAA and AA system, and then ended up retiring, and I made him a manager. And so that's always a fun storyline, like if you can pull that off. You get attached to some of these guys even though they're virtual players. And on that note, arbitration and free agency. So we had to make the hard decision. Our budget before doing anything was we were over budget. So I did make a trade. It was a trade that I don't think it's going to be a huge surprise, because I kind of foreshadowed this at the end of the last episode, but we did the old Trey Baxies trade, with the addition of Noelvi Marte, and then the addition of Shane Smith, who I signed to a long-term deal, and I think that was a little premature given how he did last season. I think 2028 seems like more of an outlier kind of season. His other seasons have just been more, and none of these seasons have been bad per se. Even last year, like, he did okay, but when you're paying a guy that much money, you want him to be, at least a like started caliber pitcher. You're like number 3 or number 4 guy, and he just wasn't it. So mainly shedding salary. What did we get back in place of that? So we the big piece that we got back, Steele Hall. He had 3-star potential before hiring my scout. My new scout sees him at 2.5-star potential. That's still fine. He's also going to be competing for infield spots with some of the other guys that we already have. But ideally, what I'm excited about is trying to make him and Celestin into more utility players. Since they both have skills where they can kind of play everywhere. 60 everyday shortstop is pretty good. With these ratings, he can play anywhere in the infield. Outfield ratings should be pretty decent at the corners. I probably wouldn't want him playing center, but he should be able to play left and right field no problem. So um, that is why I ended up putting him and Celestin in the learn new position development lab, which is not something I typically use very much because uh, general, I guess, conventional wisdom is like you can just have players learn new positions in spring training, right? You can lock them to a specific position and they will play that during spring training. They will gain skill. If it's someone like Celestin, you can do the same thing for um, their time in the minor leagues, and that's how I was having him learn right field last season. But with the learn new position, ideally, if it goes through successfully, um, they learn a new position when they don't already have ratings at, and they get a small ratings boost in whatever they learn. So if it's first base, he would ideally get some infield boosts. If it is left field, he would get some outfield boosts. The downside is you don't get to choose what position they go for. So they might just end up learning catcher for no reason. And then that's kind of a wasted position. So it's kind of a gamble, even if it does go through successfully. But yeah, it's one that I kind of want to see. Like, it's not always the most fun to do the most optimal moves, I think, every time. I want to do what makes sense and also like have a little fun with it too. So that's kind of what I'm doing with these two guys, like trying to make them into super utility players where they can play wherever because we've got, a lot of guys that are kind of set in their positions, and having that flexibility in case of injuries like would be really great for both of those young players. So um yeah, that's um where we stand with that trade. um the other players we got back as we go back to this trade, that wasn't the only thing we got back. We also got back Rico Lopez, who's still young but looks good. I mean, he's 19. He should be ready to play in the ACL with ratings like this. So we hope that he continues to develop. And then a few other guys like Kendry Martinez. He's only 22. He could continue to develop. 23-year-old Pablo Nunez at AA, and Hector Rodriguez, age 25. These are more just like throw-in guys, but they didn't cost us any extra to get, and so I threw them in as kind of like flyers. The big haul is Hall and Lopez, but those other guys are part of the deal too. So I mean, that let us shed salary in the form of Marte was due to make $16 million in arbitration, and we also shed Smith's salary for next year, which was due to be $11 million. So that freed up a ton of money for us, and that gave us some flexibility to do some other things that I wanted to do, which is namely signing some guys to some longer term deals. Adele Amador, he has only been on the team for one season, but if you look at his previous seasons with Atlanta, he was a good player and was just having a bad season with Atlanta. He came to us and really turned things around. So I'm comfortable signing him to a long-term deal. It's a fairly team-friendly deal, I think. 6 years, last 2 years are team options. This is pretty similar to what he would have gotten in arbitration, a little bit more with the extra year added on than team options. So I'd say it's a pretty like team friendly deal that doesn't break the bank. So Amador is a White Sox for White Sox. Is that the singular of White Sox? I don't know. for some time. Chase DeLauder also signed to a long-term extension, very similar deal. He is a little concerning because his previous 2 seasons were only 1.4 WAR, and then he had a monster season this year, breaking out for 5.6 WAR. His ratings did go up to compensate that. You know, I I think it's worth the gamble that he, even if he has like a 3 WAR season in there, or even if he slips down and like has like a 1 to 2 WAR season, it's still not awful, right? And he's only 28. He shouldn't really be regressing until like 30 at the earliest. So I think this is a fine deal as well, and locks him up in our outfield for the next at least 3 years, maybe 5, depending on how things go. Um, the other extensions that I signed were just 1 year deals, arbitration deals. Mizorowski, Montgomery is one that I wanted to extend long term, given what he's done so far. He's been very consistent, but his ask was too high. He wanted like 15 to 20 million instead of like the 10 to 15 million range that those other guys were willing to sign. So I'll have to reevaluate, maybe I can get him to sign a more team friendly deal during the season or in free agency, maybe. But yeah, he is someone that I would like to lock up long term, ideally. Um, right now, just the 1 year extension. Same for guys like Ryan Johnson, who he had the one really good season this past year, but the 2 previous seasons, we even say 3 previous seasons, were not on that same level. So I want to see evidence that he can repeat that season before I extend him long term, especially since we've got several pitchers on long term deals already. Noah Schultz, kind of the same thing. I mean, he's demonstrated throughout the past few years that he's been good. Um, oh, yeah, so I did extend him. um, because he was willing to take a very team friendly deal, as you can see here. Average uh, value was like less than $10 million for the years that we actually signed him, and then $15 million option. So basically bought out his arbitration, and I think it's even cheaper than his arbitration was going to be because we tacked that extra year on at the end, and the 2 team option years, which if we don't pick those up, they still have a buyout attached to them. But I always like using those team options whenever possible. So yeah, I think those are the big deals. So let me see. Here's kind of where our salaries stand going into 2030. Luis Robert Jr. is our biggest earner, signed for the next 3 years with team options in 2033 and 34. Sanchez, we only have for 1 more year. I mean, he was our ace. He's excellent, but I don't necessarily foresee us signing him to a long-term deal at age 32. So this is kind of a make or break year for us, I think. This is another year where it's kind of World Series or bust. And Grant Taylor is locked up long-term. Kyle Teal is obviously locked up very long-term. And Shanuel we have for the next 3 seasons. And then Amador Delauder. Montgomery's just on the 1 year deal. Parker Messick is another guy that we signed to a long-term deal, and he just was not there last year. I mean, he spent most of the year in AAA, so we'll have to see. He's basically untradeable with the current salary that he has, so hopefully he can bounce back next year. We'll see. We'll give him a chance in spring training to kind of make the team, at least as a reliever. He will likely not be in our rotation. Yeah, which is a shame because he had been good the previous 2 seasons for us. And so I think that was, one where I felt fairly comfortable signing a long term deal, and it just backfired immediately. So hopefully that doesn't happen with any of these other guys. Bizarowski, Dolander, he was good last year. Jace Young still has yet to sign his arbitration, but offer. But I did offer him the 5.2 million, or roughly that. And then, yeah, you could see the rest. So a lot of our team returning. The biggest question mark is at that right field spot where Marte was formerly playing. Right now, it's looking like either Aiden Smith or Lantigua will probably step in and play full time right field there. But I want to have options. Celestin and Hall both could possibly rotate in there. And then currently we have Billy Carlson, who I still do not know what to do with. He's elite defensively at shortstop, like Gold Glove worthy, ideally. But the bat is just not there, and he's fragile. So we need to figure out what to do with him. I'd say Antonacci, Shanuel, and Montgomery are all locked into some kind of spot, as is Amador. But where they end up playing right now, I mean, in the off season, I always just have the computer select the depth chart. I do it manually throughout the season, but yeah, Amador will probably end up being our starting shortstop, but we might swap things around and maybe like have Montgomery at shortstop and try to cross train Amador at either second or third. Because Antonacci can technically play third as well. This is why I like cross trading guys, because you have a lot of different options with how you kind of swap guys around. You want your best defender at shortstop, right? Which is why Carlson is there currently, but could be Montgomery ends up being a better defender than Amador at shortstop. Like, he has slightly better ratings overall. And that was his position initially before I swapped him over to third. So we'll have to see what kind of makes the most sense. Obviously, in the middle of the season when we traded for Amador, like, I wasn't going to have him learn a new position in the middle of the year while we were still competing actively for spots. So there was a little bit of cross training at second base. Like, I don't know if he ended up getting... Yeah, he got 2 games at second base. So, there was that option. But, and then Kyle Teel is obviously our starting catcher, and we'll need to figure out backup catcher, as currently Nick Fortes, I did not offer a contract to, but he is someone who we could look to re-sign in free agency. Ideally, we'd be able to bring him or Torrens back for cheap, but we'll have to see if either of those guys will agree to that, or if we maybe find a better option in free agency. So that's kind of where we stand at the moment. The long and short of it is we're bringing a lot of the same guys back. We are losing Farrer, who will be moving on in free agency, but most of the bullpen should be back. We lost Shane Smith, but we've got Liam Peterson still developing. We've got Adrian Herrera possibly ready to step in and be in that rotation. Bizarowski has 35 stamina. Like, he can maybe be in our rotation. Same with Grant Taylor. I mean, those are 2 guys that we've kind of experimented with in the past. And then Max Bayless still in AAA, who's like ready, chomping at the bit to be in that rotation. So Um, we'll see. We've got options, and we'll need to figure out how to best employ everybody. So, um, I think that's going to be like most of the big things that we're doing in free agency here, or until free agency hits. I don't think we're going to be big players in free agency. Right now, I barely have the budget balanced, and that's with the lowest possible scouting and development budget that I can get. Ideally, I'd like to bump those up. So maybe we look to cut even more salary somewhere. I don't know. Um, I don't know if or how we would do that. Ideally, it would be something like moving Parker Messick, but I don't know if that's possible. Um, yeah, but needless to say, we will not be like big name free agent players this year. Hunter Green probably off the table. Mason Wynn definitely off the table. Um, he's only 27. Then the Mets letting Francisco Alvarez go to free agency is interesting. Although he did only have 1.2 WAR. Well, 1.2 WAR in 33 games last season. He got hurt very early in the season, but we don't need a catcher. Um, Shortstop is still kind of one of those positions where, you know, a Mason Wynn would be nice, but uh, probably not in the cards for us. So, um, yeah, let's go ahead and sim ahead to awards, and then we can see where things kind of stand as we head into free agency. Okay, we have gone ahead and simmed two awards and some mild surprises here, I would say. We have the Gold Glove Awards here, and oh, there's my cat. Hello. Um, one second here. Oh, no, she's gonna be okay. Hi, cat. Hi. Hi. Okay. Um, Gold Gloves are, um, yeah, no one on our team. Christian Campbell is, I think, the only interesting name here for me, in that they're using him as a first base slash utility type player, which is, I think, interesting. He can kind of play every position, but yeah. Um, and then NL, not too much else to say. Kieran Paris is on the Rockies now. That's interesting. And playing second base. Ezekiel Tovar is always a winner at shortstop, I think. PCA for the Cubs, that's not surprising. Um, yeah, but anyway, we win both of the top two spots, with Taylor and Mizurowski getting 1 and 2 for relievers of the year. I think that's deserved. Um, Taylor's been excellent. Um, Glad that we have him locked up long term, even if it's for, that's a lot of money for a relief pitcher, but I'm still okay with that if he keeps pitching like he's been pitching. And even though he was the one that gave up the dramatic home run in Game 7 there, still a very good pitcher. Jose Ferrer also got some down ballot votes. Tim Herron for the Yankees. Uceta, who we faced in the playoffs for the Blue Jays, was excellent as well. And then Jeremiah Estrada for the D-backs won in the NL, and it looks like he had a good season as well. So, let's see, batting leaders. We did not win anything here. Um, yeah, not really too much to shout out. I guess Alvarez at first base, they still have him playing first base instead of DHing, which is interesting. Yeah, he started 116 games for them at first base. Come on, Astros, what are you doing? NL, let's see. Yeah, these are all fairly expected names. Tremar Johnson might be the most surprising name here, but he put up 3.9 WAR last season, so maybe not that surprising. And Rookie of the Year, Ben Buckles for the Royals, rubbing more salt in this wound as we I discussed earlier how we chose Antonacci over him, and their careers couldn't have gone in more opposite directions. Yeah, Buckles looks to be a superstar in the making. Um, yeah, I mean, just look at those ratings, and he's 24 years old. Like, yeah, Buckles, man. Takahashi for the Padres, international free agent, signed with them. Casually hit 48 home runs this season. Struck out 260 times, but also hit 48 home runs on route to a 2 WAR season. That's one way to put up a 2 WAR season, I guess. Anyway, I won best manager of the year. So, um, you know, again, this is like one where you could argue. I mean, we won 100 games. I guess that's probably worthy of that. There's probably a better story out there of a team that maybe the Astros, who, like, I don't know, how did they do last year? Oh, they finished with the same record last year. So, yeah, give it to me. Sure, why not? NL Craig Counsell won for the Cubs. Still coaching the Cubs in 2029. That's good to see as a Cubs fan. Chase Dolander won your Cy Young. It was a very split vote, um, but that's mildly surprising. I mean, he did lead in WHIP, he led in games started, led in BABIP, but WAR was not as impressive as some of these other guys. Even Logan Gilbert, 5 WAR on the season. Higher ERA though than Dolander, I believe. Yeah, Dolander had close to 3 ERA. Detmers for the Angels had a sub 3 ERA. We faced him en route to losing to the Blue Jays. Tariq Skubal, I mean, he's always a monster, right? Um, Maybe they thought it was time for someone else to get a chance. Grant Taylor got some down ballot votes for Cy Young as well, which is interesting. 3 first place votes even. And Mackenzie Gore, we talked about him in the playoffs. Hunter Brown for the Astros. Like, yeah. I guess there wasn't a clear winner this year, so congrats to Dolander. And then Paul Skeens won unanimously for the Pirates, and yeah, that makes sense. Sub 3 ERA, led in innings pitched, led in WHIP, led in Ks. That's Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens, everybody. Michael McGreevy, second place for the Cardinals. That's an interesting one. He usually becomes like a quad A type of pitcher from what I've seen. So, congrats to him. Um, yeah, and then MVP, Riley Green wins for the Tigers. He had 7.1 WAR. He led in. He won the Triple Crown basically. Average. Well, wait, no, that's not the Triple Crown. It's, what is it? Average RBI home runs. I think that's Triple Crown. But he won the OPS award, at least, like OPS over 1,000 for a season. That's an MVP caliber season for sure. Chase DeLauder did get some down ballot votes, finished 4th in MVP voting. Didn't get any other MVP votes from people. Leo DeVries finished right behind Chase DeLauder, which, yeah, looks like he's going to be a monster at age 23, already getting MVP votes. Gunnar Henderson had an excellent season. Cal Raleigh had an excellent season. Yeah, that's 141 strikeouts and 41 home runs. That's yeah, Cal Raleigh still hitting dingers. And then Juan Soto won the MVP for the NL unanimously. Let's see, how did Otani do this season? 3.7 hitting WAR and 1.5 pitching WAR. I mean, that's a pretty good Otani season. But yeah, it's hard to argue with a 7 WAR, 1,000 OPS, 56 home run season from Juan Soto. So Michael Bush for the Cubs got some votes, as did Pete Crow Armstrong. Yeah, Pedro Ramirez even got some votes, as he's up to a 3-star player. Interesting. Yeah, so those are all of your awards for this past season. Next up will be free agency. Here's where our dev lab currently stands. We're at 4 of 10 players now either on track or excelling, which is nice. Steel Hall is struggling to learn a new position. Those are theoretically easy dev tracks to do, but I rarely see them work out. So, it might have been a waste of a dev lab slot to try and do both of those guys, but I wanted to try it. We'll see. We'll see if it ends up panning out here. So, yeah, not too much else to talk about here. Some of these guys I may throw on the 40-man. Looking at Zaire Hope specifically, maybe J.R. Ritchie, Rudis Diaz, who we just waived, but we might throw on and then wave again. Yeah, to try and keep here. Zaire Hope, I think, is almost definitely going on. Well, we do only have 2 40-man spots, so that might make it difficult, but we could always waive someone else, I suppose. Someone that's going to free agency or something, so... Yeah, let's go ahead and sim to free agency. All right, we have made it to free agency here, and yeah, some interesting developments, I would say. One is that obviously Jose Ferrer is a free agent. Look at his demand. I mean, $35.2 million over 5 years for a reliever, and he's not. I mean, I guess with 35 stamina, you could maybe start him with his pitch mix, but yeah, that's too much money. No way we can afford that. Now, I did say we were not going to be active in free agency, but one of the international free agents, Alex Marquez, came out, and if you look at his ratings and you look at his demand, like, he only wanted a minor league contract with $3 million signing bonus, which is crazy for a 27-year-old with these kind of ratings, like 4-star overall. So it's like, okay, this is a case where for whatever reason the CPU is undervaluing this player. So I tried to give him a fair contract, what I would say is like fair without breaking the bank for us, which is basically I looked at Murakami's contract coming over from Japan, where it's like, okay, for whatever reason, people value him as like kind of a gamble, similar to how Murakami was when he was coming over here. So he got a 2-year deal for $17 million a year. I gave him a 3-year deal. The last year's a team option and an average of $17 million a year. So that he's only taking up $10 million against this year's cap. Yeah, I mean, this is just a guy that is insane. Like, he, I was not going to let him go to a CPU team for $3 million, and it felt like cheating to pick him up for that little amount of money. So I think this is a fair compromise. Yeah, but it also, if we get him for that amount of money, adds to what was already a crowded infield. Um, between Amador, Antonacci, Montgomery, Shaniel, and then we've also got the newly acquired Steele Hall. We've got Billy Carlson. We've got Celestin. We've got Christopher Torrin, who was hurt for a good chunk of last year or playing in AAA. So, yeah, not enough spaces to be like playing all of these guys. Um, so maybe we look to swing another trade. Jace Young also, like, he was our DH, and like, does he have a spot on this team necessarily? Like, I don't know. It's uh, gonna be an interesting problem to figure out, especially since like we are approaching like I need to free up some more money ideally, but I don't know where that money is going to come from. Um, we've got guys like I don't want to like trade Colson Montgomery or something, right? Like the guys that have been really like good for us and are like good and um, consistently good. I mean, Parker Messick is the one that really stands out here, but there's like no interest in him whatsoever. What if I retain 100% of his salary? Okay, then there is some interest. So maybe I look to swing him somewhere and free up just a little bit more money. Um, but again, it's like, what do you do? Yeah, Cole Stokes looks interesting. Yeah, I don't know how thrilling this is to do this live on camera, but let's like, let's explore this a bit. What I like to do as well, I don't think I've really gone through my trade process too much on camera as well. Um, I will always open up snipping tool. You can use whatever you want. I take a quick screenshot of whatever they're offering. In this case, Cole Stokes, and then yeah, see if I reduce the salary at all, they have question marks about it. So, um, maybe I give away a prospect to try and offset this deal somewhat. So, like, if I go, man, they can't even afford 50% of his salary. Okay, so we do have $6 million available, so we could like, who would be like a mid-tier prospect that I wouldn't mind giving up? Someone like a Ronde, who's currently on waivers, maybe. Um, Wells is in Double A and not that exciting. So, I mean, this only saves us like $1 million. So, what if we do something like this? We add cash in. Um, let's add in, I don't know, how much money would we like to save? $3 million. And that does it. And then we can take this down some more. And it doesn't really help our budget this year, but it does get him off the books for the next 2 years. Um, I think this is the best that we can do. And this is a weird spot too, where like they only have 500 budget space available. So maybe we look to like make a trade with someone else who actually has like budget available. Who else is an interesting offer? Colby Turner, Michael Kennedy. Like, Cole Stokes is definitely the most interesting player, that I could get a return on. But what about like one of these guys? Or even an outfielder like Valencia. I mean, he looks decent. Okay, so like the Marlins, they have 3 million in budget space. Who's got like a lot of budget space available? Like no one. How does no one have budget space heading into free agency? They have cash, but they don't have budget space. Even the Dodgers don't have budget space. Okay, so the Marlins are like the closest ones. So let's see. What can they actually afford to take? They can go down to like 60. Okay, and then I have to give up like a decent prospect for 60. So if we go down to like 75, okay, then we can like work with this, I think. Although still like not many guys that I would want to give up. J.R. Ritchie, I guess, is okay to give up. And then 60. Yeah, Levi Wells. That's fine. All right, and then we can do the 3 million again. And let's add in somebody else. Shane Murphy. Sure. Okay. So they could go down to 20, and then, yeah, we're going to need to figure out a way to make this work. But like 50, let's put in, I don't know, Will Brennan. And now we're into players that like I generally don't want to give up. Okay. And then finally we can do I guess we'll do Takao Roby to get this done. And that might allow us to go even one further down. No, okay. But that does free up a little bit more salary. All right, so we save about $4 million with this trade. We get him off of our books. We give up a ton of like quad A type of players and get back a decent looking AAA guy. So this is pretty much purely a money saving trade. But I think it makes sense. Yeah, let's see if, I mean, yeah, they won't let us add cash on their side. Okay. Despite them having cash, their budget space is, yeah, okay. We'll just go with this. Yeah, complete this trade. The fans hate it. I don't know why. But yeah, that gives us more money to work with. Yeah, and we're back over 10 million, and I think we can do this. Whoops. So now we're back over 12 million. So that gives us a little bit of flexibility. And Parker Messick, how much are we? We retained only 20% of his salary, so that's pretty good. Yeah, and it makes that contract a bit more feasible. Um, yeah, hopefully that live on trade or live on camera trade was interesting. But usually I don't work trades like that are purely like money saving trades. Um, but in this case, I think it was necessary. So we still got to go through free agency here. Yeah, that was the big move was going for um, Marquez here, and I'll throw him on the default short list as well. We've got a few minor league contracts out. We do also still need, ideally, we'd like, I think, at least one reliever to kind of fill out the pen here, um, just as insurance if anyone gets hurt. Um, we're going to go back to Ryan Walker as our closer again, I think. And then the rest of the guys are very solid, but we will need. I mean, we're at 13 pitchers, so we'll need to figure out how exactly we want to adjust that, but should be good with one additional arm, and we also need a backup catcher still. So that's kind of the only holes that we have in free agency. We do have 6 spots open on the 40 man now. Rule 5 draft will be the next interesting thing that's coming up. We do have a few guys that need to be protected. Gunther Braindle, I think, is top of the list here. He is 25 and only 2-star overall, but I think with his potential, I still want to protect him. Ethan Conrad also looks really interesting, especially given that our right field spot is still somewhat up in the air. Yeah, and a few other guys in here, like William Bergola Jr. maybe gets protected. Bodine maybe gets protected. Maybe we look to make him our backup catcher this year. Yeah, or Fosque. Um, Fosque actually looks pretty solid and can play the outfield. Maybe he is the answer. Maybe we look to promote from within instead of signing a free agent. We've also got Quintero, who's been doing well in Double A, and a few other guys that have been hanging around our system for a while. So maybe we try one of those guys out at backup catcher instead of looking to free agency. And we've certainly got pitchers in our minor leagues that could maybe fill in that last bullpen spot, but we want to see. I think we want a reliable reliever, and there are a few out there that I kind of have my eye on in terms of they're fairly cheap and had a good performance last year. Guys like Aaron Bummer, sub-3 ERA, almost 2 WAR, only wants 2.3 million, is a lefty. Sean Dubin, Jason Adam had a good season. I mean, he was pretty bad in the one season he was with us, so I'm hesitant to try to bring him back. Will Vest, limited time, but sub-1 ERA, only wants 4.6 million. Yeah, pretty much anyone on this list here I would be comfortable with. I threw Eric Feta on here. I don't really want to pay him 10 million, but if he hangs out here in free agency for a while or is willing to take a minor league deal even, which I've seen happen before, yeah, I would not be opposed to that either. Gregory Santos, yeah, I think one of these guys, I'll just have to figure out, who's kind of the best candidate here in terms of overall cost and what they kind of bring to the table. I do like Sean Dubin, and he can like kind of start too. Yeah, I think he might be the pick here. He's cheap. His FIP was the best. He's got a sub or an ERA right at 2. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and offer him a contract. The Nationals give him a 2-year deal. I mean, we will meet that demand. That's fine. He's only 34. Um, I guess 34 is a little old, but it's should be fine. Um, I guess I should see he hasn't really regressed at all. So, yeah, I'm fine with that. And then, yeah, we'll have to go through Rule 5 and see, who to protect. I think, you know, Fauske is a guy that could get taken, and so we might look to protect him. We've probably got more than 6 guys that I'll want to protect, but I'll need to see. Zaire Hope is another guy that has been on and off the 40 man recently, but I'd ideally like to keep him under 25 and still potentially promising ratings here. He's getting right up to 25 though, so we'll see. All right, I feel like I've been rambling for a while now, but yeah, let's go ahead and sim ahead to probably the Rule 5 draft, unless we look to make some trades during the winter meetings. I don't even know, are there more trades I can swing to save more money? Because, I mean, I would ideally like to go into this year with a higher development budget and scouting budget than just the baseline, but I don't know what makes the most sense in terms of cutting salary. Um, yeah, all of these guys are valuable contributors to our team, guys that I don't really want to get rid of. Maybe next year when some of these arbitration values go up, I look to flip them, but for a World Series contender, I want to keep everyone around. So yeah, that's kind of what we're going with at the moment, I think. So yeah, we'll see how free agency goes. And player development, I don't think I showed development lab really. Both Hall and Celestin are struggling, but still have a few weeks left to get that back up. And then Amador is right on the cusp of getting to green. I would love his infield defense to go up to make him our everyday shortstop, or everyday second baseman, maybe. I'm still unsure how I want to arrange the infield. So there's a lot that's up in the air, but we will figure it out as we go through free agency and the off season here. Okay, brief update here as our short dev lab programs have concluded. Both learn new position programs were a bust for Celestin and Hall, but Amador did improve his infield defense, which is nice to see. He's up to a 65 range, which is good. I think that would make me comfortable playing him at shortstop this season. Still haven't decided exactly how I want to handle the roster. It will kind of depend on, we are the front runners still for Alex Marquez, who looks quite good at shortstop as well. So we'll have to see. If we get him, he's probably going to play shortstop, and then that would shift Amador over to second, maybe. He's got 65 potential at second base, too. So, and then Antonacci maybe becomes a utility guy. I don't know. We'll have to see. there's a lot of different ways we could play this. Um, might be we just ride whoever has the hot hand kind of thing. But yeah, we'll have to see. I'll definitely be trying guys out at different positions in spring training, trying to cross train as much as possible so that we've got a lot of flexibility in how we build our lineups for next year. Um, yeah, I'd say Kyle Teal at catcher is pretty locked in, and Shanuel at first is pretty locked in. Or DH, maybe, if I need to slide someone else over to first. Um, Everyone else is pretty. Oh, and Luis Robert Jr. at center. Like, he's going to keep playing center for us, even though he's down to 2.5 star overall. His actual ratings haven't dropped. So, yeah, he's going to keep playing center. Everyone else is pretty up in the air, I would say, in terms of what position they're going to play. Even Chase DeLauder, who held down left field for us last season, could shift over to right if it's better to play someone like Lantigua in left field most of the season. Yeah, I don't know. Very interesting offseason in terms of how we're going to construct our lineup here. Yeah, and also I have to contend with the Rule 5 draft coming up. This is my short list currently for the Rule 5 draft in terms of, guys that I think have a shot of getting taken. And you'll notice there are 15 guys on here. We have 5 slots open, and that's not even counting the 2 guys that we have pending free agent offers out on. So, and we still need a backup catcher. Um, I was going to try to roll with Fauske as our backup catcher, but thinking about it more, I think he would be more of an injury fill-in. He's not that highly desired by other teams, I think, to the point where he'd be taken in Rule 5 probably. And if you look at his ratings, he's not likely to be good against left-handed pitching. He's a lefty bat as well, and I want someone with Kyle Teal, who's a lefty bat, as our primary catcher. I ideally want someone as our backup who's going to play well against lefties so that, we can primary start him and give Teal some off days in there. Um, whether that's looking to bring back Fortes, who did well in that role last year, or somebody else. I mean, I think all of these guys would be on the short list of guys that I'd be comfortable with backup catching for us. A lot of these guys want to start Amaya and Campusano, Caratini. Even Fortes wants to start somewhere, but I mean, if they're willing to take less money and be our backup catcher, like, I'd like to bring them in. Um, as my air conditioning kicks on. All right, well, let's wrap up this clip here, and yeah, the next interesting thing will probably be the Rule 5 draft in a few weeks here. And I'll kind of show you what our roster looks like at that point. All right, quick trade update here as winter meetings are now underway. The Billy Carlson era is officially over. Yeah, I think this return is crazy good for him. We are getting Roke Cholowski, former first round pick of the Giants back in 2026. He looks at least to be on Carlson's level, if not better. He is slightly older. That's the only knock against him, and he's slightly worse defensively, but his bat already looks better. You know, Carlson's fragile, and we get Brock Eddy, who's 25 but looks decent overall. I mean, he could probably fill in as a reliever right now and be okay at it. And we get Oliver Tejada, who just turned 23 and looks like a decent outfielder. And we also get Lorenzo Miolo, who's more of a throw-in. But I think this makes sense. It does nothing to really solve the logjam of guys that we've got in the infield at the moment. But, you know, I'm not going to turn a turn down an opportunity to get better. And so, Roke Chalowski, welcome to the White Sox. We also, I never showed the 3 guys that we put in new programs in the dev lab. That's Nolan Shanuel for generating bat speed. He's still got a little bit of unrealized power that I'd like to realize if possible. So he is there. Celestin is in for bat speed as well. He's got several hitting ratings that can still go up. He's only 24. I think that makes sense. And then Ben Hollenbach is in for velocity, I believe. Yeah, velocity. He's still got a little bit of velocity potential to realize. He was our 2nd round pick last season. So hopefully we can see him at the big league level sooner rather than later. We're now up to 4 guys total, either excelling or on track for their programs at the moment, which is encouraging. Hopefully that continues to go up as, I still got to figure out what to do with the rest of these spots here. Chalowski, let's make you a shortstop again, so that, I like seeing that a lot better. He should compete for an infield spot this year for us, I imagine. Is there any chance he passes through waivers unclaimed? Let's see. I have the chance to pull him back, so we're going to try it. And if he gets claimed, whatever, I'll throw him on the 40-man roster. But that would be great if I freed up a spot with that trade as well. Unlikely, but you never know. There's a few other guys that are kind of on my radar for possibly trading. Luis Lara, Samuel Munoz. As I had Reddit pulled up for half of this video. That's great. And then a few Rule 5 eligible guys. Ethan Conrad is a guy that ideally I'd like to throw on there. He does not have a lot of trade interest, but his ratings and his overall make me think that he is a valuable player. So, as Roke Chalowski would otherwise be Rule 5 eligible. So we'll have to throw him on the 40-man regardless, because I'm not risking that. And then Arias Molyneux, who was just a 3-star potential player, still is an OSA, went down slightly, not really for any good reason that I can see. Still looks pretty solid overall. I'm debating whether, but he's 25 as well, just turned 25, so he's kind of on the borderline. Do I keep him? Luis Perales had good numbers last year in relief and looks pretty solid overall. He might deserve a spot. And then the Rodriguez's, Hector and Jesus both did well in AAA. Well, Jesus did well in AA and earned a promotion to AAA and is only 23, and pretty well regarded by other teams. And then there's Youngerman, who managed to pass through waivers but is still pretty highly wanted by other teams and looks pretty decent as a reliever, and maybe even a starter in the future. We'll see. So that is more than, I think, 6 guys that I want to protect. So some of those guys might get traded, and we still have 2 incoming free agents. I still probably want to leave room to actually draft guys in the Rule 5 draft, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that comes together here. I'll have to figure out how I want to handle that. Most likely we leave some guys unprotected and we hope that they make it through without getting drafted. Is probably going to be the plan there. So we will see. I'll let you know if I make any more trades or if before the Rule 5 draft, I'll show kind of my roster decisions where we stand with everything as well. We are to the Rule 5 draft, and yeah, made a few moves here. First and foremost, I guess, is I did make a trade. Where is that at here? Yeah, we had two players, Maddox Moloney and Robert Arias, that were both, I think, on the cusp of being Rule 5 drafted by other people. So I'm like, okay, let me shop them together and see what I can get for them. And what I got was Manny Carrillo, pretty solid looking Dominican prospect. He's still quite a ways away, but 3-star potential. And that's at center field. I think he's got even higher potential at left or right field. Eric De La Cruz, who looks interesting. He's already kind of sort of that utility type of player that I've been looking for. Although he hasn't played above AA ball really, just a little bit of AAA towards the end of last year. So don't know if he's big league ready yet, but definitely a guy worth taking a flyer on. Jimmy Graves, who, was not valued very highly by the CPU for some reason and looks like a solid reliever. Like, he's only 23 years old, has 2 good pitches, is fairly developed already. Like, he should be pretty much ready to pitch at the major league level. So I'll definitely be giving him a shot in spring training. And then Yasiel Soler put up good numbers in AAA and AA last year. And then Andy Lopez is another kind of flyer guy, Dominican level. So all of that for 2 Rule 5 guys. I will take that. Yeah, I also went ahead and threw Ethan Conrad on the 40-man. I feel like he was in danger of getting drafted, and he was a guy that I traded for from Chicago, and I don't particularly want to lose him. And same with Luis Perales. Like, he just looks very solid overall and put up good numbers in AAA last year. So I think we're going to throw him on the 40-man and see how he does in spring training, which leaves us with 3 open spots, 2 pending free agents. So really just 1 open spot. There's a few guys that I've kind of highlighted here. Everyone whose name is in caps, I think, is kind of in danger of being taken. The only one who I thought about throwing on the 40-man and ultimately didn't was Jesus Rodriguez, who looks pretty solid overall and is only 23. But I'm going to take the chance that he goes unclaimed. If he gets drafted, it's not a huge deal. I feel like we have a lot of outfielders kind of at that level. And then Cholowski I did throw on the 40-man. I don't want him to get drafted. After scouting him, his overall, or his potential did dip a little bit. I think it's still, I would still make that trade, him for Carlson, just given that he was a first-round pick. He had really high potential, is 24 versus 23, and his injury is better, and his bat looks better than Carlson's for just a slight trade-off in defense. Like, I think that's worth it. But anyway, Rule 5 draft. In the draft pool, let's go ahead and clear filter here and find the guys I've shortlisted. This is mixed in with some of my guys in here too. Like Sean Youngerman is another guy that I think could get drafted, but I'm gonna leave him off just in case. I guess we'll start with pitchers, because why not? Outside of Youngerman, the only pitchers I really had my eye on are Luke Broderick, who looks solid. Still, he is 25, but still has like a bit of development to do. Don't love the personality, but I think he could be a decent reliever. And then Max Gregory Harvey, who looks really solid, but very raw, like probably too raw to play at the big league level. So probably not going to draft him, but I wanted to highlight him just because he, if I was able to give him time in the minors somehow to develop, he would be a great pickup, but not really possible with a Rule 5 pick. And then guys that I highlighted here, let's look at catchers first because I did find Fauska and Quintero are in our system. Vaughn Lackey is a guy I might look at picking up. He's a guy I actually drafted in like a Cubs sim that I was doing because he had pretty good potential and was a first round pick. And yeah, he's got very solid defense, decent looking bat, personality class is great, high leader, work ethic, IQ, and looks to be decent against left-handed pitching. So we could look to draft him and maybe make him our backup catcher if things work out. Infielders, Roderick Arias, I think I looked at him at some point in the past, maybe in like a trade or I don't know. He put up good numbers in AAA, and that's the main reason why he's here. I don't love the avoid Ks, but he looks like he could be a solid like backup for us potentially. I think Eric Batanti was on my short list last year too. The 60 power, I love. The 3 WAR at AAA, I love. Did basically the same thing last year too. So yeah, and he could maybe even play some outfield in addition to first base, so that's not too bad. Antonio Jimenez, still a little raw for 25, but put up good numbers in AAA, and if he develops a little bit, would be a very solid like infielder, I think. And then Juan Matthias, kind of the same deal. Good numbers at AAA. That's kind of what I looked for mainly. Ezekiel Melbourne is in our system. And then outfielders, Clifford's in our system. Carlos Gutierrez is a strong possibility, I would say, with 3.2 WAR, 60 contact at 25 years old, and kind of our need for a right fielder. Bram Martinez might be even more of a option since he's only 23 and looks fairly developed already. Could be a strong option to be picked. But you can see we kind of have a lot of those outfield type guys already. Esbiel Valencia is a guy that, could see some time. Yeah, so I guess going into the draft here, I probably will take Vaughn Lackey to have a catcher option. I'll probably take a pitcher and I'll probably take a batter and just call it there. We have 3 open spots. Now that means 2 of those 3 will likely not make the team when we end up signing our relief pitcher and shortstop if they both sign with us. But I think we'll deal with that if and when the time comes. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. So let's get into the Rule 5 draft here. As we'll see, let me save real quick, just in case I've made some terrible mistake. But let's see who's available here as we auto draft. If we do lose Trevor McDonald, okay. He was someone who I looked at very briefly, who put up good numbers for us last year at 28 years old. I don't mind losing him necessarily, but I'm not surprised to see him taken. And yeah, let's see. Draft order, continue draft. Were any guys taking? Christian Moore is a guy that was on our team for a while. until we traded him to the Dodgers in exchange for Zahir Hope, who got claimed off of waivers, by the way, and Ezekiel Melbourne, who is still hanging out in our minor league system at age 20. So that's interesting. Dax Fulton, I briefly looked at, I think, at one point, and Jack Brannigan. Um, Reminds me of Zap Brannigan from Futurama. Okay, so I think we will go with our planned pick of Vaughn Lackey here. Yeah, he looks like a very solid backup catcher. Um, and then let's see if we lose anyone else. Oh, Bram Martinez. He was maybe going to be a draft pick for us. Okay. We did have another outfielder that I was looking at. And I guess we will pivot to him then because, yeah, that's kind of surprising, honestly. But we'll go with Gutierrez. He is 25, but yeah, he may not make the team, but he's getting drafted for now. And then Eniel De Los Santos, and we will go with a pitcher, and I think it's going to be Broderick here just to kind of see what he can do. And yeah, no one else is taken. So I think we finished the draft. Auto draft, complete draft. And that is your Rule 5 draft, everybody. So we only lost one player in Trevor McDonald. We've got some waiver claims out there too for Cam Canarella and Merrick Houston, who both look like mainly quad A kind of players, but that kind of depth is definitely helpful. You never know when you're going to have injuries, that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't mind those pickups. And we've still got, we'll have to figure out the 40-man situation once our free agents sign, but at the moment we are good, good to go there. So yeah, let's keep moving on through the off season. I don't think there's much else to show here. Herrera is excelling, Max Bayless is excelling, and Bastian and Shanuel are on track. That's good. And budget looks good. Yeah, everything looks good. I think we are good to keep moving on through the off season. All right, so it is January 26th, and yeah, we've gone through quite a bit since the Rule 5 draft. Let me just give the highlights here. We did sign both Sean Dubin and Alex Marquez. So our infield logjam gets even more jammy as we have more players to figure out there. Yeah, it's a good problem to have, I think. I'm interested to see kind of how spring training goes because there's a lot of different directions this lineup can go in, and yeah, ultimately I'm going to field the best team that helps us compete this year. So we'll see what that ends up being coming out of spring training. We could see some spring training trades, which is rare for this team. Yeah, but I think we might have some guys that are kind of crunched out as we look to kind of get guys playing time. This is what his stats look like after scouting, by the way. It did dip a little bit, but he still looks like a very good shortstop. And we signed him for exactly what I offered him, 10 million this year, then 17 next year with the team option for 24 in 2032. Um, I think that's very fair for his skill set here, um, if not underpaying him still, relative to his skill level. So, yeah, there was a 22-year-old pitcher as well that was an international free agent that I'm sure we'll be seeing in Cy Young contention. He was like a 4-star overall pitcher, but there's no way we were going to be able to afford him. So, um, yeah, the in order to make room for Marquez, our Rule 5 pick, Gutierrez, we traded to Toronto, flipped him for some prospects. Um, we were able to pass Dubin through waivers, so that's where he's at right now. Um, and speaking of waivers, I've made a few various waiver claims. We'll have to go through and kind of cull the minors a little bit. This is what usually ends up happening in the off season is I accumulate a bunch of guys. My AAA team is sitting at 56 players right now, which is fine. Go heading into spring training. We're going to have a lot of options for guys to compete for spots there. But then ultimately, once we cut down, we'll want each of these to be, probably no bigger than like 40-ish players. So we'll have to cut down some spots. But plenty of players that, lots of 2-star players in both AAA and AA that probably will end up getting cut. That's usually what I do. As well as probably some guys from A plus that need to move up. But anyway, development lab, mixed bag, but mostly good, I would say, as we've got 3 players excelling now, and the rest are not far away. Becker was succeeding at one point, is close to that level. Same with Lantigua, with 3 to 4 weeks to go. So hopefully we stay at that level. Yeah, I'd love to see, several of these succeed. I try to shoot for at least a 50% success margin in the development lab. So far, we've had 1 success out of 3. And so, yeah, we'd probably be shooting for, um, at least 4 of these to succeed. Um, since there's, I think, 8, no, there's 7, but yeah, that would give it us about 50%. So if 4 of these succeed, I think I'll be happy. But if 3 succeed with excellent progress, that would be great as well. Um, yeah, anyway, our um, various waiver claims. Oh, yes, international free agency. So I kind of went with a mix of what I was going to do before. Instead of going after several low tier guys, I just started offering high tier guys the minimum amount that they offered. A lot of the time that's not going to be enough, and you'll need to increase your offer until you get them to be, um, like your max slot basically. But I'm like, let's try doing it that way in this round, because there were quite a few like 5-star, 4.5-star guys that I liked. And so we ended up with 2 players that look pretty solid in Jose Reyes, 5-star potential and really good like potential ratings all across the board in bats. His contact's a little on the low side, but when he has 70 power and 80 in the other stats, you'll take that. Obviously, still very raw. Obviously, his defense needs a little work. He could play an okay third base, I think, right now. And then David Lopez, love to see that power come up a bit, but 80 potential contact is no joke, and 30 current contact is nice too. And he's already pretty decent defensively and has a good, really good personality. So both of those guys signed for, well, I can just show you, 3.15 million for Reyes, and then I think it was around 4 million. Yeah, exactly 4 million for Lopez. So that was like our entire budget on those two guys, but I think that is a good use of budget there. Not breaking the bank for one of those guys, but rather kind of going around and seeing, there's a few guys that I maybe would have liked to try to sign for cheap, like Enrique Perez is interesting for as a 4-star player for just 600K, but that power is concerning. But yeah, I think this was the move that I ultimately just wanted to go with. Yeah, so two solid prospects here. And then Hall of Fame voting results. I can show that. We had several guys in their first year here. I've been trying to, highlight White Sox legends. Unfortunately, Mark Burley in his 10th year did not make it in. I voted for him every year I could. And then Yasmani Grandal is a name that I forgot about. He played for the White Sox for several seasons. Towards the end of his career, he kind of bounced around, but I threw him in my list. We'll see if we can get him into the Hall of Fame. And then Jose Abreu is a name that I remember. Yeah, he's was a very solid player throughout his entire career. But he didn't start his career until age 27, so that kind of hurts his case for like a Hall of Fame career, just because he doesn't necessarily have the accumulated stats that a lot of guys would. But his peak was excellent. He had a 7-WAR season in his rookie year, 2014, and played a good chunk of his career for the White Sox. So we'll see if we can get him in. Other notable guys, Alex Rodriguez. Remember, steroids do not exist in the world of OOTP. So he was unjustly kept out until his 9th year of eligibility. For some reason, mysterious reason, he, despite having really good stats, was just kept out for a long time. So Alex Rodriguez is a Hall of Famer. And then Buster Posey, Joey Votto, all getting good amounts of votes. Adam Wainwright is up there. Chase Utley, Felix Hernandez. Anthony Rizzo, I also, as a Cubs fan, had to vote for him. I think it was required. His peak was excellent as well. I mean, he was such a solid first baseman for the Cubs for so many years, and then even had some good years with the Yankees after getting traded. So yeah, I'm a big Hall of Fame proponent. Like I don't like the small hall philosophy. Like I kind of like how the NFL does it more, where it should be just like as many players as possible, I think, in the Hall of Fame. Like not undeserving guys, but just like there's guys who are very good who, like, yeah, make them Hall of Famers. Why not? Like Felix Hernandez, if he's like, he should be a Hall of Famer. He's a good pitcher and pitched his entire career with Seattle. Like those are guys that you want to recognize in the history of your sport. Like Alex Rodriguez, there's legitimate cases maybe in real life for keeping him out, but yeah, the whole steroid debate is something else entirely. I know Foolish Baseball had an excellent video about Sammy Sosa, and that was very. I highly recommend watching that if if you are one of the people that is anti-steroids users in the hall, like Sammy Sosa specifically is kind of a weird case. Um, but growing up, I remember the home run race between him and Mark McGuire, and it's like that got hit so many people my age into baseball, and yeah, that is part of the story of baseball. Like you can't talk about baseball as a sport without mentioning the home run race in '98. Like that was encouraged and celebrated, and now because those guys took a substance that was not banned at the time, you're gonna say that they don't deserve their Hall of Fame spot. I don't know. It's kind of a gray area, but anyway, enough Hall of Fame voting talk, I guess. Back to OOTP, where again steroids do not exist. We signed both Amaya and Camposano to minor league deals. I would be happy with either of these guys as our backup catcher heading into the season. So we'll see. I want to see how Von Lackey does in spring training. I also will probably give Kenyon Abrams a shot, who we traded for from Toronto, and is one of those high or low contact, high power guys that looks kind of interesting. Put up good numbers in AAA and AA last year, so I want to see how he does. He should hit well against lefties. He's got 60 power against lefties, so yeah, maybe he starts the year in AAA, but those will be some combination of those guys will be my four catchers for spring training. And then obviously we've got the big log jam at infield to figure out, and we'll have to figure out, how our outfield looks as well. Between Smith and Lantigua, probably for that last outfield spot. Obviously, DeLauder's going to be in either left or right field with Luis Robert Jr. in center, but yeah, and then we've got guys like Steele Hall and Celestin. Like, I don't know. Steele Hall has options too, so that's interesting in terms of like, I could look to make him a like kind of utility guy in the minor leagues. Celestin is probably close to being big league ready, if not big league ready right now. So, yeah, and then between all of those guys, and then we signed Marquez. We've still got Roque Cholowski, who we traded for. We've got Eric Becker, who is hopefully going to make that next step this year, and take one of those infield spots. Like, I think there's a very real possibility that some of these guys get traded heading into spring training or coming out of spring training. Like Antonacci, like he's in his first year of arbitration, due to make $7 million next year. Like, what could we get for him? It's an interesting question to ask, as he's been definitely good throughout his White Sox career with us, right? But has never had that like really elite breakout season. And he could be kind of the odd man out, I think, when it comes to, Amador had a 3-WAR season last year. And then Montgomery has been putting up 3-WAR seasons like the entire time he's been up in the big leagues. And then you've got Marquez, who's brand new, and could be capable of that kind of season. You've got Becker, Cholowski, who all need playing time. Maybe one of those guys you could shift over to first base, but then you've got Jace Young and Nolan Shanuel, who both, I think, want first base time this year. So how do you balance all that? And that will be an interesting question to answer going into spring training. So I think we'll probably sim ahead to that, and we'll see. I'm not going to make any moves, I think, before spring training, but definitely coming out of spring training, um, we'll have a lot of interesting questions to answer. Someone like Christopher Torin, where does he fit in on this team now? He had a good season in 2028 and then was injured or in the minors for most of 2029. Like, um, could we get something good for him? Um, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Gonna be very interesting. So let's go ahead and sim to spring training, and we'll see kind of where things stand as we head into spring training in terms of how we want to structure the roster, what guys we're going to cross train where, and yeah, kind of what the expectations for the season are. I mean, I know my expectations for the season are kind of World Series or bust at this point. So that should be the direction I think that we head in this season. All right, we have made it to spring training. No major updates to report. I will go through our development lab results though. We had two successful results with Max Bayless increasing his movement and Eric Becker generating more bat speed. And then two outstanding improvements. Jay Bastian, um, power potential and current rating went up. I don't think that's been quite reflected yet, but should make a difference there. And then Adrian Herrera, potential movement improved by 5, current movement improved by 15. And you can definitely see the difference there as his movement was previously, I think, 45 all the way up to a 55 now. He was already in contention for that 6th starter spot. He make the rotation at this rate. Like, that's impressive. So in spring training, we've got him in the 6th starter spot. I don't think this should be a huge surprise. Sanchez, Dollander, Johnson, Peterson, and Schultz. In the other spots, that was basically our rotation to close out the season last year. I also let the computer decide the bullpen. We're going to have Taylor and Mizorowski in the same stopper role that they were in before. Iglesias will be in the mix, of course. We will probably have Ryan Walker close again. He did a good job at that last year. And then some mix of other guys as well. Lineup wise, again, I still am not quite sure what to do. You can see we've just got guys playing all over the place just to cross train them, get them more experience. Amador maybe will be our starting second baseman. And then Marquez at short, Montgomery. Jace Young right now is basically only a DH. I want to get his first base rating up. He can actually be a better first baseman than Shanuel. And then maybe we have Shanuel DH. I don't know. It's a thought. It's a thought. And then we've got Aiden Smith. He's got quite good right field ratings already. I just want his left field ratings to be a little higher so we can, again, kind of play guys where they're needed. And then Steele Hall is just getting right field experience to try to make him more of that utility player that I think he can be. I think that's going to be his best use case in this roster at the moment. So we'll have to see how spring training goes for a lot of these guys. The big battles, I guess, to see will be who gets our backup catcher spot. I think, well, I'd say all 4 of these guys have a shot. Abrams is probably the odd man out in terms of he's still not even on the 40-man roster. But between Lackey and Amaya, I think it will be interesting to see kind of who claims that spot. And then what do we do about our infield logjam? I mean, you can see already, even with how we've got guys positioned now, Antonacci isn't starting, Becker isn't starting, Cholowski isn't starting. We've got DeLauder, who's definitely going to be starting somewhere. Kind of a good problem to have, I think, preseason predictions have us going 84-78. I want to see what it looks like once we have our final roster in place. That kind of went up at the end of last spring training, and that was more reflective of kind of how our team ended up actually doing. We won 100 games last year, so I'm hoping for at least another 90 game win season and winning the division. Like, I think that's definitely within play for this team. So let's go through spring training. I will update if there's any major injuries. Otherwise, I think the next update will be what our opening day roster will be heading into 2030. Which, again, still very up in the air in a lot of aspects. So we'll have to see how that goes. Okay, it is opening day 2030, and I think we have a roster that makes sense here to start things off. First, let's go over the development program, development lab results. I didn't show the last one mainly because I forgot, but it was mainly just a bunch of improved defense programs. None of our long programs succeeded, unfortunately, but we did have 4 successes on defense. Eric Becker, slightly better. Alex Marquez, our new shortstop, slightly better. Colson Montgomery, his range actually went up by 5, which is really nice. He's now up to a 3.5 star potential and overall. Third baseman, which is really nice. And you can see his potential contact went up as well as his rating at third base. And of course, he can play shortstop as well. And then Kyle Teal, his catcher ratings went up, which is nice. He's our everyday catcher and was already a good fielder. So definitely like to see that. Now, for our staff, no major injuries. Sean Youngerman, who was kind of on the cusp of being a guy that could make the roster, could be like an injury fill-in, tore his ligament in his elbow and is out for the season. So that's brutal for him. But he's a guy that ultimately probably wouldn't have made the roster, but still sucks to see that happen. And then our rotation shouldn't be a surprise. Sanchez, Dollander, Johnson, Peterson, Schultz to start the year. And then Herrera will get the 6th swingman starter spot / long relief role. If there's any injuries, he will be the first one to fill in, or if any of these guys struggle to start the season. As expected, Ryan Walker is our closer, Mizorowski and Taylor as stoppers, Raisel Iglesias in the setup role, and then Brendan Little coming back as a middle reliever / specialist, left-handed specialist. He is the only left-hand arm in the pen currently. And then Luis Perales, who looked promising in AAA last year and was out of minor league options, so he will start the year in the big leagues. One name to watch, well, several names to watch as we'll go through our pitching staff here. Max Bayless, still right on the cusp of being big league ready, I would say. I want to see if he can keep up those numbers in AAA. He also still had options to start the season, and a lot of our pitchers didn't. So, if guys struggle, he could be seeing big league time this season. Gunther Brandel also up to AAA after putting up good numbers at AA last year. He's on the 40-man now as well, so he could see big league time with a little more improvement. We drafted him, remember, way back in 2026 in the 18th round, and he kind of blew up and became a really good prospect for us. So Jimmy Graves, I love his name, and he was kind of a throw-in the AZ trade that we made for Malik Smolany and Robert Urias before the Rule 5 draft, but he's a really interesting name to watch. He added a changeup to his arsenal, and he's probably either big league ready or very, very close given the numbers that he put up at AAA. Again, he was not on the 40 man. He had minor league options still, so he will start in AAA, but he will probably be the first man up out when it comes to the bullpen. If we do still have two 40-man spots, and I'd love to see what he can do at the big league level. Yeah, and even if his stamina can get one or two ticks up, which I did change his development to kind of focus on his stamina more, like he could maybe be a starter, fringe starter guy, or a stopper type of role, joining Mizorowski and Taylor with 35 stamina and several good pitches. So, yeah, names to watch there. For our main roster, here is who ended up making the team. And I'll show kind of their last year splits as kind of justification for how I set the lineups. Again, it mostly made sense. Cholowski made the team due to a really good spring training. You can see he had OPS over 1,000 for most of spring training. That's great numbers. Put up good numbers at AAA last year. The downside is I didn't cross-train him at second base, so he can only fill in at third base and shortstop, where he will be mainly backing us up, but we've got enough infielders to make that work for now, and if he ever does get sent down, we'll be sure to cross-train him at second in the minor leagues. Amaya ended up winning the backup catcher spot. Our Rule 5 guy went back to the Astros. And you'll see, curiously, Amador not starting against right-handed pitching. So this is where I want to highlight. Where is time frame and double split? Okay. So our lineup for right-handed pitching, Chase DeLauder obviously was on a tear last year. He's going to start in right field. Jace Young, I did have playing first base throughout spring training. He's up to a 55 with 65 potential. And then Nolan Shanuel only has a 55 total. So I think it makes sense for Young to play first and Shanuel to DH, with, of course, Shanuel rotating in as our backup first baseman. Colson Montgomery playing third, Teal playing catcher, and then here's where we get to kind of the infield logjam of Antonacci, Amador, Marquez. I will see how Marquez does. I debated having him start at AAA because he had a pretty weak spring training, but his ratings are good enough where he should be able to play at the big league level. So we're going to give him a little bit of a leash and see kind of what happens here. In the meantime, Antonacci and Marquez will be our starting second baseman and shortstop, with Amador rotating in every third game at shortstop, every fifth game at second base. So he's still going to get plenty of playing time. He's still going to be, and actually let me rotate him in to be the backup DH as well. So that way, yeah, he's still getting plenty of at-bats. We want him in the lineup, right? Like, that's just what we want. Lantigua will be our starting left fielder. Smith as our backup. And again, we're rotating in Smith every fourth and fifth game in both left and center field. He's got the defensive chops to play center field. So kind of, giving Luis Robert Jr. some extra days off. As he does get older, he is fragile injury proneness. So trying to keep him healthy as well. I think that makes the most sense. And then, of course, we have our defensive sub lineup of DeLauder, Robert Jr., and Smith left to right, just because Lantigua is not the best fielder, which is why I stuck him in left instead of right. But we want his power in the lineup. He hit well enough last year where I think he deserves a shot to start it at left field for us. And then if we look at the right or the left-handed splits, This is where, Amaya gets to shine because Teal does not hit lefties well. He'll get the start against lefties, so he'll still get plenty of playing time. Luis Robert Jr. obviously starting in center. We have Young starting at first, Amador starting at second, with Chalowski starting at third. Again, he put up very limited at bats against lefties last year, but he is a right-handed hitter, so this will be a way to get him some more playing time and starts as well. Given that Antanasi and Montgomery don't hit lefties particularly well, they'll get rest against left-handed pitching. Marquez will get the start still against left-handed pitching. He's a right-handed hitter. I think he should be fine. And then, yeah, Aiden Smith gets the start as well with Lantigua DHing because all of our outfielders can actually hit left-handed pitching pretty well, at least with how last year went. So, yeah, Shanuel gets a break. He was, over 100 OPS plus, but I think this lineup makes sense. And then, of course, he's rotating in every fifth game at DH and backing up at first. So, those are our lineups. Just missing out, Eric Becker, of course. He had a weak spring training, and his ratings are still not where I wanted them to be. He's climbing up to 25. I don't know if it's worth it to just maybe trade him and see what I can get because he does still have a lot of trade value, but I don't quite want to give up on him just yet. Then, of course, Celestin and Steele Hall both still have minor league options. Both are definitely options to play this year at the big league level. I want to keep cross-training them at multiple positions to kind of get them into that super utility role, ideally. I don't think that should stunt their development too much. I don't know. I like the idea of having two guys that can play multiple positions. Yeah, as like injury fill-ins are crucial, and I want to be prepared for that. Yeah, and then Tate Southesy had a good spring training. Well, a decent spring training, and he's kind of a guy that's been quietly climbing up the ranks, is up to a 3-star potential, so keep an eye out for him as a guy that may make some big league appearances this year. Ethan Conrad also, like, not the best spring training, but his ratings are good enough where he could see big league time this year. And then, of course, Kenyon Abrams was kind of our catcher that missed out on a spot. He will play at AAA along with Fauske and Francisco Perez, who we traded one of our Rule 5 guys for. Actually, Gage Wood, who we picked up somewhere, I think off of waivers. Off of waivers. So he's another catcher that is very good defensively and put up decent numbers at AAA, so he'll be hanging out there, ready to be a backup if needed. Jay Bastian starts at AA. Our minor league system is not the greatest at the moment, I would say. OSA ranks us last in the majors, and I would not necessarily disagree with that. We've got a lot of older prospects, a lot of guys that have kind of graduated or are about to graduate, so we definitely need a good infusion of minor league talent. But it makes sense that we're kind of at that point because we are a team that is looking to win the World Series this year. We're predicted to go 89-73 and win the division. None of our guys showing up in the top hitters or pitchers, but that's fine. I think it's a very well-rounded team. I think it's a team that is constructed to do well. And yeah, we should be able to compete for the division and for the World Series this year. Their prediction, by the way, is the Dodgers going 99-63 with the best record, which they have Junior Caminero now, curiously playing shortstop for them, but they somehow got him from Tampa Bay at the trade deadline for a haul of prospects. And yeah, their lineup looks pretty legit. Pajes is still there. Yandy Diaz, former White Sox, briefly, is there now. Of course, they've still got Ohtani, doing Ohtani things at age 35. Dalton Rushing is now their starting catcher. I don't know what happened to Will Smith, if he retired or if he went somewhere else. Max Muncy's still there playing third base for them at age 39, but still putting up good numbers. I mean, last year he put up 5.3 WAR at age 39. That's pretty impressive. And then of course they've got Gavin Williams, who they traded for Cleveland. Ohtani, Webb, Logan Webb, who they signed as a free agent. Yeah, that's not surprising. Taj Bradley, who they traded for from Cleveland, and Edward Cabrera, who they got from the Cubs. So I don't know how they had the capital to get all these guys, and they have Roki Sasaki and Cade Smith in their bullpen. So, and Munoz and Yamamoto, curiously coming out of the pen now instead of starting for them. Uh, you know, I'm not gonna argue with that, I guess. Yeah. So, they are kind of the team to beat, I guess, in terms of preseason predictions. But that's not surprising. A lot can happen in the regular season, so we'll need to see how this team does. I think we're constructed to win. I think it should be a good season. So, thanks for watching the off-season episode as we head into the 2030 season. Still looking for that World Series title, but this could be the year. I feel like we are constructed well and ready to compete for a championship again. So, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.